Welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. Our theme for 2025 is the future of work. Meaning is the new money. In a world shaped by rapid innovation and constant change, the pursuit of purpose and impact has never been more important. I'm Dr. John Dentico, your host, bringing over 30 years of experience in leadership, strategic thinking, and purpose-driven innovation. Here, we tackle the pressing challenges of our time, from the rise of artificial intelligence to the growing need for meaning in the workplace. Together, we'll uncover how leaders can ethically integrate AI to enhance decision-making and keep humanity at the heart of their organizations. Remember, amidst all the technological advancements, in the end, it's always about the people. This podcast is your resource for actionable tools, thought-provoking discussions, and inspiring stories. It's time to go beyond leadership development and focus on leadership impact, creating workplaces where people thrive, innovation flourishes, and meaning truly becomes the new currency. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Now, let's throttle up and dive into today's episode. Hello again, and welcome to the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Dr. John Dentico. With me today is Ann Carden. Ann is a strategic business growth consultant and CEO of Carden Incorporated, founder of the Expert in You brand and influence marketing and media agency. She is a 3 times author and #1 best-selling author, speaker, podcast host, and magazine publisher. Ann has over 4 decades of business, marketing, and sales experience. She spent 13 years in corporate business management, managing multi-million-dollar departments for a multi-billion-dollar national retail corporation. She has been an entrepreneur for over 30 years, founding and selling 5 previous businesses. Working as a consultant coach since 2010, Ann has helped hundreds of coaches, consultants, and service businesses add hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars to their businesses in over 70 industries. She has also trained and educated thousands of business owners, entrepreneurs, and professionals through speaking, workshops, seminars, and social media channels. Ann was recently inducted into Who's Who in America for Entrepreneurship and into Who's Who in America for Professional Women, and I am truly pleased to have her here with me today on the podcast. Hello, Ann. How are you?
Hello, John. Thank you so much for having me here. I am fantastic. Thanks so much.
Oh, great to have you. As I always like to say, it's great to meet new people. Great to have wonderful guests. So, as I like to say as well, let's jump right in.
Let's do
Okay.
it.
So, Ann, can you provide an overview of the services you provide to entrepreneurs for growing their businesses?
Yes. Really, in a nutshell, I help them build wealth and influence and impact with their business. But I help them do it at a really premium level. So when I'm working with my clients, we're working them in the top of their industry, the top of their niche versus sort of the volume methods that a lot of people are teaching. And so I really help them have more of a premium business.
Very interesting. Yeah, and they're trying to exact as much out of the business brand, if you will, as
Yes.
they possibly can. I get that. Let me ask you this, Ann. It's one of my more favorite questions to ask, by the way. I'll just mention that to you. And what would you say are the top 3 mistakes that premium entrepreneurs make when working to increase their offerings?
Mm. Well, they definitely don't value themselves the way they could. They don't understand a lot of times how to value their services to the market or the market that they could be working with. A lot of times I see them play a lot smaller than they would have to. I see a lot of experts that come from maybe a professional background. They've done big things. They've built this career collateral, and they decide to step into coaching or consulting or offering doing some sort of business, and they often don't leverage what they've already learned and what they've already built their experience in, and they try to go into something different that's not aligned with really who they are. So it's a very slow track for them. It's a very slow path, and often they don't have the confidence to really step into what they fully could be doing. So those are two of the main problems that I see. And then the third is a lot of times they just don't really, they're great at their thing, but they maybe haven't developed the business skills, that the marketing skills, the sales skills that it takes to really be an entrepreneur or build something that can really build their wealth and build their impact and influence. So as a result, they miss out on a lot of opportunity, a lot of money, and a lot of impact.
Yeah, yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, I think that it's hard to do it all.
It is.
It's you know, and you have to bring in the right people at the right time, as you well know,
Hmm.
in order to maximize your investment in yourself and in the organization. So I completely understand. I've seen that so many times before.
Yeah. And they don't realize too that a lot of times they feel like they should know how to do everything, but that's nothing could be further from the truth, right? Unless you have gone to school for business or for marketing or for sales, or you've got that kind of a background, what would make you think that you would know how to do all of that, or even the financial side as well in
Yeah,
building a
yeah,
business?
yeah. I know. People are prideful. I can
Hmm.
figure it out. I can do it. Yeah,
And that's
I'll
costly.
handle it. What's that?
I said that's costly.
Well, that's costly,
That
right?
is
Yeah,
the
pride could.
most costly thing you can do. Yes.
That's right. Pride's a good thing. Don't get me wrong, but you got to know where. What was it? Was it Clint Eastwood had said, "A man's got to know, or a person's got to know their limitations," right? That kind of a
That's
thing.
true. That's
And
really true in
I
building
think
a
that's very
business.
true.
Yes,
It's
it
very
is.
true in business.
Yeah, and
So,
I think, oh, no,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think too, you mentioned trying to figure it out. And a lot of people get into business and they try to do that, but what they realize is we now have the tools, the resources, the people that can speed that success. No longer, when I first started my first business, I don't know, 34 years ago, I didn't have everything that we have today. And that's why more millionaires are popping up every single day, 1,700 new millionaires in the US every day. I mean, that's crazy to think about that. But it's because of what we have available today. So you don't have to try to figure things out, and you can speed your success and you can walk the path that other people have already figured out. So trying to do it
Right.
yourself doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and knowing what you're really good at, and
Yes.
accepting that, and knowing what you're not very good at,
Yes.
and because you want to bring the right help in,
Absolutely.
so kind of avoiding the redundancy, if you will. Um, Let me ask you this: what do you think are the fundamental changes that businesses are now experiencing or have experienced in the wake of the COVID pandemic?
Mm. Well, definitely you have to be online. I just do not think that that is even negotiable anymore. Before the pandemic, a lot of people were not really online. It wasn't, they were building their businesses offline or building maybe through networking or referrals and those kinds of things. And then I think the pandemic shifted everything. Now I believe you need a hybrid model. You need to be doing things offline, but you also need to be doing things online. And without both of those things working together, I think that you're going to have limits as to what you can accomplish. I mean, what we have, again, the tools and the resources that we have available to us from the internet is a game changer. For years I had to run in print and run print ads and magazines and all the print stuff that you had to do, and it was a really slow path, and it was very expensive to build businesses with print advertising. But now you have the opportunity to look at what we're doing here, John, and this is going to be all over, and it's going to be evergreen, right? It's going to be out there forever. That's such an opportunity that we've just never had before. So I think one of the things is people do need to realize that it's changed, the market's changed. And now, if you really want to stand out in your industry, in your niche, if you want to really get over above your competition, because now it's so competitive, it's more competitive than it's ever been. You have to play a different game. You have to do bigger things. You have to go bigger. You have to have a different attitude about your business. It's Long gone are the days where you can hang a shingle and expect everybody to come to you. It just doesn't work that way.
I think that we have to take almost an attitude of, is what I call it. We live now in the let's Google it world, right?
Yes.
The idea that every day millions of people all over the world get online and are searching for a relief, a relief of pain or a
Mm-hmm.
relief of discomfort, no matter how small or big that is. I mean, I could tell you a story about me fixing my dishwasher and I getting online and seeing the graphics and understand, a guy was online who had the exact same model I had and laid it out for me. And I went back in there, a big DIY guy, went back in there, fixed it myself. But, the discomfort was I had standing water in the bottom of a dishwasher,
Mm-hmm.
and this guy who I never met helped me fix it. And so and now what we're realizing, certainly in the marketing world, as you well know, is we have to be geared towards how do we help someone take their pain away? How do we
Mm-hmm.
help someone alleviate the discomfort that they feel, whether it's in coaching or dealing with growth or hiring problems or retaining people? It's just a whole different way to come to the marketplace. I'd love to get your reflection on that.
Oh, no, that's so true. I mean, first of all, you people are always looking for something. There's always a need. And that's what businesses are created and born and even grow from is a need in the market. It's something that people are looking for. And if you don't understand that around your business, I see this a lot. A good example of this would be somebody that's really good in tech and they say, I'm going to create this product in tech, but they really don't know if the market has a need for that. It's just their idea and they think, oh, this will be great and everybody wants this, but they don't do market research and they don't really find out, is this solving a problem? Is this or is this just something that I want to do? And so if you don't understand the needs of the market, people buy out of a want or a need. So if you can't get one of those two things dialed in, you can't really grow a business. And businesses need to understand that. But you're absolutely right. It's the thing that drives sales. It drives, I mean, it doesn't matter what you're buying because you have a want or a need. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's a whole different, as you say, it's no longer sufficient to put up a shingle or a website and say, this is what I do.
Right.
This is what I do. Yeah, no, this is what I do. That comes later on in the game.
Hmm.
The whole thing is I'm here to solve this problem for you.
Right.
And if you have this problem, I'm your person, so to
Yeah,
speak. I'm
and
your
why
guy.
should it be you over someone else? Why should it be me
Right.
over someone else? That has to come out in your marketing, in your content, in the things that you're doing, or you'll look like everyone else. And this is a
Right.
lot of times why people end up undervaluing what they charge. They end up playing the pricing game because they don't know how to really set themselves apart. I always say, put yourself in a category of one where no one else does anything the way you do, but you can't just be that person. It also has to show in your marketing. It has to show in your positioning, the outside perception people have around you and
A-
your business.
Absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. This kind of takes us to the next interesting question I have for you. And it might be a little bit bigger in terms of the scale, if you will, in terms of talking about organizations. So let me just tell you, and over the course of the last year, I have returned to discussing the importance and the importance of a concise one sentence mission statement to an organization. And I will tell you, Ann, I knowingly walked away from talking about mission statements for a while. And the reason is, you ask someone, do you have a mission statement? Oh, yeah, we got one of those. Well, where is it? Oh, it's hanging on the wall over there. So you guys live it, breathe it, do it every day. Well, we walk by it every day, and you get, as you will know, you get tired of the same, okay, let's talk about that. But I've come back with great fervor to discussing mission statements because I've really rediscovered its importance. So I wanted to mention to you, I wanted to ask you this. How important do you think a mission statement is in branding? And what do you think are the key elements, the key things that and I know it's a limited space, a one sentence, that's what I believe anyway, one sentence mission statement should have?
Yeah, I think it should encompass what you really stand for and where you're going, what the whole basis or foundation of your business is, and even kind of having your why incorporated into that. So what's the thing that drives me? I want to help people build wealth and impact and influence from their business and step really have, create their full potential from their expertise and their brilliance, because I
Great.
know they can impact the world, right? So I know, and so that's not exactly the wording, but that is the thing that drives me. Business has served me very well through the years. I want to help other people achieve that in their life, because it impacts everything. It impacts their family. It impacts their lives, that they can give back in bigger ways. So that's the thing that drives me, because of what I have learned to be able to accomplish in business. I want to help other people do that. But to your point, a mission statement is the foundation for what you stand for and where you want to go and what your whole vision is for your company.
I've been using this metaphor. I think it extends to the people who work with you.
Yes, the culture.
They have
Hmm.
they have to know what you're about,
Yes,
what value system you live under, and where we're taking this operation, where we're
right,
going with this.
right.
I lately I've been using this sort of metaphor of the movie 300 with Gerard Butler. You know, where this is about the Spartans and their stand at Thermopylae. And there's a scene in the movie in the beginning where Gerard Butler, who plays Leonidas, tells the envoy, this is Sparta. Does anybody not know who we are? Is anybody confused about what we do in the world?
Hmm.
No, we're the Spartans, and everybody knows who we are. But and I use that simply to say it wasn't necessarily for the envoy to hear as
Hmm.
much as it was for the rest of the Spartans to hear
Mm.
that this is
Yeah.
who we are, this is what unites us, this is
Hmm.
what pushes us down the track. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's true. I think it really, if you can't get people that work for you or people that are aligned with you and where you're going and what the vision is for the company, then it's sort of like it's kind of abstract to people. So it needs a mission statement really can align your core values and the things that you stand for, but it also aligns the people that work for you. So yes, who are you? Who are we as a company, as an organization? And what is it we're trying to accomplish? Was it, I'm trying to remember if it was IBM or Apple. I think it was IBM said, we're going to make sure that there's, maybe it was Apple, we're going to make sure there's a computer in every single home. Is that Apple? I believe.
I don't remember. I think it might have been IBM. I'm not sure.
Okay, well, it was one of the two, and I'm trying to remember which one. Or even if you think about Amazon, that we're going to be known for uh, customer service. I mean, that's their whole mantra. That's everything that they stand for, and they have lived up to that in spades. And but that's their mission. That's what they want to have happen, and their whole culture has to be behind that. And so, yeah, I think it's very important for a company to establish that.
Yeah, I have to correct myself. I think it was Apple
I think it was. I think
because
every
yeah,
every
when
home
they
will have a home computer. I believe it was Apple. Yeah.
when they started when I think it began when in '84 when they started to create the Macintosh, the first
Hmm.
Macintosh
Yeah,
that
I
came
think
out.
so.
So yeah, yeah, I think it's interesting, and I think you're right. So let me ask you the next question here, if I can, Ann, because let's talk about burnout if you can. It's a subject that I have turned my attention to over the course of the last year
Hmm.
in terms of mitigating the effects of burnout. And in my particular perspective, I'm looking at the implication of leadership
Hmm.
on burnout. What kind of leadership ideas and models are we using that can either mitigate burnout or increase burnout? So
Mm.
that's always, I'm looking at that particular perspective. So let me ask you this question. What ideas or remedies or mitigation strategies would you recommend to a leader who realizes that they are now in the grip of burnout? What would you advise them to do?
I believe that burnout comes from a lack of skill set or trying to take on too much and not leveraging people around you, trying to be too much in control, trying to control everything. And that isn't how great leaders thrive or work, because nobody climbs the mountain by themselves, right? We don't get to success by ourselves. And so I believe if there is a burnout situation, you have to look at what's underneath that and what skill sets have to be changed, what needs to be learned, what needs to be shifted, reprioritizing, but not just reprioritizing yourself, but also what do you need to do to leverage other people and really lean into their skill sets. When people are, it's exhausting to put all the weight on your shoulders in any situation, whether you're a parent or a wife or a husband, or, to try to control everything around you and not, and think that, you're the one that knows how to do it all and nobody can do anything for you. And this happens in business a lot. Like people running the companies are afraid to let go of things. That's exhausting. And nobody can sustain that for any length of time. And so you have to look at what's underneath that and what shifts have to be made.
It's interesting. Another metaphor I'm using is the Star Wars perspective, because I know a lot. Many people have seen that and they get the general idea. And I said, over the course of the last 50 or 60 years in the world of leadership, we've raised, in terms of the leader, we've raised a generation of Jedi Knights. Right? Their job was to come in. I'm sure you've
Mhm.
seen this. Brandish the light sword and vanquish the problems and issues that lie before the organization. I'm sure you've seen this. And I said, it's occurred to me that now in this much more collaborative partnership perspective, distributed, if you will, hybrid workplaces, uh, uh, leaders in organizations today have to think of themselves more like Yoda. Okay?
So good.
And
Yes.
thinking of Yoda, because their job is to raise a
Hmm.
generation of Jedi Knights who will do the work, who will go out and brandish the light swords, if you will. And what did Yoda do? Well, he was the teacher.
Hmm.
He was the facilitator. He put the challenges before Luke and he said, hey, go into the cave. You only take what you got. You're going to find out more about yourself than you ever knew.
Hmm.
And I think that there's a shift. To me, it's a giant shift, tectonic shift, if you will,
Hmm.
in being a Jedi Knight as to being a Yoda who can create an environment, as I like to say, where people come to do their best work every day. And
Hmm.
I see that kind of a leadership perspective as one that can, as you say, alleviate the everything's on me. I'm the Jedi Knight here. I got to fix it all. I'm the one that's vanquishing the problems and issues. So I'd love to get your reflection on that.
Oh, that's so true. Everything that you're saying is so spot on. So, number one, that takes all the pressure off of you because now you can teach other people. And then you can again delegate and leverage that. But the other side of that, John, is gosh, you can learn from even the people that you're teaching. When I am coaching clients, and I don't know everything, right? And they're working with different types of clients and doing different types of things. It's amazing how much I learn from coaching and consulting people in things that I don't know about that they're experts in. And so when you open your mind to that, you all can go further faster. That's just the reality. And so I think having also the open mind that I can learn as much. A good example of this is I think we've seen a big shift. I see companies say the younger generation, we don't want to work with them, this and that. And that's a big thing. But it's not that they're not. I mean, again, these kids are brilliant. They have access to things we never did at our age. And they are so smart and so brilliant, and technology is a good example of that. They know things that I wouldn't even have a clue about. And so if we don't open our mind and tap into their excellence and their brilliance and allow them to flourish, I mean, there's room for everyone, but that's where you'll get the best out of people. It's not shutting them down. It's just because they don't do things the way we did necessarily in our generation doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means there's a shift. I mean, they're determined these days that they're not going to be their parents and work all of their life and then retire and then they'll have fun, right? Or then they'll travel or then they'll enjoy life. They are not, they're in a world now that they don't, that model doesn't have to be their model. It doesn't have to. We have other ways that they can be doing things, working remotely and traveling, and so they're determined they're not going to be their parents. They're not going to watch their parents never be home and raise their kids. And so it's a very different world. And if you don't roll with that, if you don't change with that, you really become irrelevant in business and in life. You really kind of become irrelevant. So we have to be very open to generations and what they're able to bring to the table, and there's room for all of us. They can learn from us and we can learn from them. And that's, to me, that's collaboration, right? That's true leadership, is when you go in with that kind of that mindset and that, that thought process and
Yeah.
the way you do things.
Spot on the money. As far as I'm concerned, that is right on the money. It is an accepted fact now that the more junior people in an organization probably know more than their bosses. They've been exposed to more.
Hmm.
Electronic media to them is second nature.
They don't even think about it.
They don't even think about it.
Hmm.
It's just like it's there. It's in their palm of their hand. That kind of a thing. And I think you're absolutely right that we have to be able to, in this 5 generation workforce that we have right now, there is this tremendous shift that's occurring,
Hmm.
and just as you say, we have to respect what they know. I talk about the big three all the time, and the big three are, what are the young folks, what are people in general looking for in a workplace today?
Hmm.
And the big three are, number one is they want to have values alignment with the organization.
Hmm.
They want to know you care about the same things they care about.
Yeah.
Number two is, and you've pointed to this so aptly, they want to be involved in the decision making processes of the
Hmm.
organization. They want to matter and they want their work to matter. They want, as we want,
Hmm.
as everyone wants, a level of control and autonomy over their own destinies. And the third thing is they want training and learning that's going to advance
Hmm.
their professional careers. To me, that's the bottom line. That's the basement. If you can accept that, I speak to organizations and I say, if you don't have that woven
Hmm.
into your marketing messages to bring in young talent, you're missing a bet here.
Yeah.
You're missing a big bet, because this is what they want. As a boomer, I went from, and have made the transition, I think, part of the way from, you know, we live to work as
Yes.
opposed to we work to live,
Right.
right? That kind of a
They
thing.
have a
So,
very different
any,
philosophy. Yes.
come on
Yes.
back.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, any further thoughts on that? Yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
No, I think that is just so true. And the other thing though, and I guess this really would go along with what you were saying about they want to work for a company where the cores and values align. I think a big piece of that for people for the younger generation is they also want impact in the world. They want global impact. They want to give. They want things to help other people. They have a very different attitude around charity, and a lot of them, I even see so many younger entrepreneurs who they're so aligned with drilling well, building wells in Africa, or and they have these global ideas around part of their business going towards that, and we see it with green, with the environment and all those things, and they care about those things. And I don't think that it wasn't that our generation didn't care about that, but it wasn't as profound. It was it, that's not the right word, but it wasn't first and foremost to us, I guess. It wasn't a priority. Not that we didn't give, we did, but not to the degree that you see these kids now building businesses and wanting their organizations to give back and even starting businesses with that whole goal in mind. I'll give you an example. There's a mascara that I like to buy, and 10% of everything that you ever buy from that company, and it's run by a young entrepreneur, she's brilliant. 10% of that goes back to some sort of a charity. And so that you see more and more of that, and you have to understand that those things are important to them. So I think to build that into your message, into your marketing, and understanding that in your organization is an important piece as well that can pull good talent to want to work for you.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think the importance is you gotta let them know that. You
That's true.
can't
They
hide that.
can't do it in a vacuum, right? They have to know. It has to
Right.
come
And it's
out.
one of the reasons
Hmm.
why, right. It's one of the reasons why I'm really, leaning in, if you will, on mission statements. Because here's the thing that I've seen, and it was sort of it's on me, as I said, it's on me. I was building a bridge from one side, talking about values, bringing value, connecting values to a young person or a person coming into the organization. And what I've learned in the mission statement is you can't bring them in if the organization itself doesn't articulate their own aligned values. You have to build a bridge from both sides of the river so that it meets in the middle. And I hadn't done that, and now I'm really much more trying to talk about that, trying to bring those two pieces together, because some and again, mission statement, it's about values, it's about who we are, as you said, where we're going, what is it that we're going to do, how do we intend to do it. And if you can't be crystal clear to your own people, then what's going to happen is you're going to bring people through the door that you want to hire and bring in that will not match.
Right. Or they'll
and
go out the
and you're
back door because they're not happy. Yeah, and
absolutely right.
to that point too, John, something we really didn't talk about is I think that even the younger generation today, they want to enjoy their job. They want it to be a workplace of fun. And I don't mean fun from a ridiculous standpoint, but they want it to be a place they enjoy because they don't have to be there. We've got more opportunity than we've ever had in history for people to have their own businesses, make their own way, make their own income. They don't have to work for companies. So you have to understand that as a company, as an organization, you have to make that workplace so that people want to be there. They not only thrive in the environment, but they genuinely love being there. They love being part of it. They love being part of something bigger. And I think a lot of organizations and companies are missing that mark. Google was a good example, though. What did Google do? I don't know. They put in slides and they put in, I didn't think about some of the companies my son worked for. They would fill the refrigerator with drinks and they had food, and all that was for them every single day. They brought in food. They didn't have to worry about where they were going to go for lunch. Like that was all just provided. It was part of the atmosphere, it was part of the environment. Those are things that they're meaningful. They mean a lot to people. They sound simple, but they really do mean a lot to people.
There's 2 points I wanted to make. One is that is we talk about what our value system was, and as you said, maybe it wasn't first and foremost. I kind of look at it as a layer cake. This okay. So maybe our value system maybe the third or fourth layer down, whereas with the younger people today, it's the top layer,
Top.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the very top
Yes.
layer. It wasn't that it wasn't there. It
Yeah.
was there. It was just a couple of layers down on the cake,
Right.
if you will.
Yeah.
And we cared about a lot of things. And the other point I wanted to make is, at least speaking for myself, the most fun I ever had is when I knew in my heart and soul that the things that I was doing mattered,
Mm-hmm.
that I was contributing to something
Yeah.
that mattered to me and mattered to other people. And
Mm-hmm.
that to me always was just the best. It was the thing that made me feel whole
Yeah.
as a person. So I I completely understand where you're coming from. And yet, all the other stuff, all little perks, the drinks and the food,
Sure.
hey, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing because
And
that helps it along.
I think that's true whether you have your own business or you're working for a company or a corporation. To know that what you're doing makes a difference. All of my businesses have given back to other people and have helped other people. They've all done that. And so to not have something that is kind of passion driven for me would be difficult because that's really where my heart is. And I think it absolutely is the same for people today. They want to, especially the younger generation, and but even people your age and my age that are now trying to find their passion in this late chapter in life because maybe they didn't do that for many years. And now they're realizing, wow, there's really something here. There's really something. Stepping into what does God have for us here? And what is my purpose here? So, yeah, I think that's so true. But I think you're right. It's at the top of their priorities.
It reminds me of the question that is asked. I saw this survey one time where they asked people in assisted living villages or independent living. They asked them. They said, "What's your greatest regret?" And the answer was, I didn't take enough risks." And I think to your point, it's never too late. It's never too late to find something that you really care about and that you're passionate about. So I absolutely appreciate that. That's a great comment. So let me ask what I refer to as my world famous last question that I've asked for people all over the world, India to Australia to the UK. And that is this: if you had a magic wand and you could wave it at an issue or a problem in the world in which you live, in the world in which you work with every day, what would that issue be and why did you choose that?
Hmm. I would have to say, for me, and I guess I'm looking at this from experience, maybe, it would be that people understand that they have something of value and that God has a purpose for all of us. And I see so many people that never step into that. They never, they settle, they get comfortable. They never step out of that comfort and say, what's my bigger thing here? And I feel like people are so complacent today. And so if I could wave a magic wand, it would be to leverage the opportunities and the purpose that you really could have and play to your full potential. I always say, play big or go home. But I
Yep.
think that I just, it almost kills me. It's like when you see people that have all this talent, all of this experience, all of this, and then they do nothing. I don't get it. I'll never be that
Yeah.
person. I don't get it.
Yeah. I worked for a woman, a great woman named Phyllis McDonald, who's since passed away. And I used to tell her, you're my hero. And she goes, why? I said, because you never stop. You keep
Yeah.
going. You're the bunny. You're the
Yeah.
bunny. You're the Energizer bunny. You
Yeah.
just keep going. And she did pass away in her sleep, and she was supposed to go to work the next day.
Mm.
And as I understand it, she just kept going, kept
Hmm.
contributing,
Yeah.
kept giving,
There's always
doing her job.
more. Yeah, there's more. There's always more. We're not supposed to
There's
just like,
always more.
I coached somebody, just a real quick story. I coached somebody one time and a brilliant, brilliant man. And he said to me one day, he said, I think most people are just living to die. And I thought, what a horrible, sad statement. But it was
Right.
so profound. And I thought,
Right.
I don't want to be that person. And I hate to
Yeah.
see other people be that way.
Yeah. One of my favorite remembrances is they asked George Burns, the great comedian George
Oh, I
Burns, when he
loved
was
him.
yeah,
Yeah.
when he was 98. I
Mm.
said, George, what about retirement? He said, it's been done. And it's been done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just kept doing what he loved to do,
Mhm.
doing where his passion was. I absolutely believe this thing right here is the number one longevity organ on the body.
Yes.
Just keep it
100%.
moving, keep it
Yep.
going.
I agree.
And no matter, keep moving ahead, even if today it's only an inch. Sometimes you get a foot, sometimes you get a half a foot, sometimes you get a half an inch. Just
Yeah.
that's the way life is
Never
sometimes, but
stop.
just keep
Never
moving
stop.
forward.
I totally
Yeah.
agree with you. I'll always be doing something. I've had people say, Ann, when are you going to retire? I say, why? Like, why? What would I do? What would I do different? I'd still
What's
want to be
that all
doing the
about?
same thing. Yeah, exactly.
Well, listen, Ann, I can't thank you enough. You've been a spectacular guest, and I truly appreciate your time here today on the Throttle Up Leadership Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I wish you all the success in the future. Good things to you and your family.
Thank you
Thank
so
you again.
much. It was wonderful being here.
Thank you.